In this video, we're going to talk about something that's often treated as technical, but is fundamentally political, strategic, and deeply human: digital sovereignty. In a world increasingly shaped by algorithms, platforms, and proprietary systems, the question isn't just what software we use, but who controls it, who benefits from it, and who gets to shape its future. Open source software offers us a different path, not just cheaper tools, but transparent, adaptable, and community-driven infrastructure. It's not just viable, it's vital if we choose to make it so. This presentation will explore how open source supports sovereignty, how commercial models around it actually work, and how procurement practices can either enable or block innovation. We'll look at real-world examples like QGIS, unpack the myths around open source sustainability, and end with a call to action for companies, governments, and anyone who believes that digital infrastructures should serve the public good. Let's dive in. Let's begin by clarifying a foundational concept: digital sovereignty. Digital sovereignty refers to the ability of a state, organization, or individual to control and govern their digital infrastructure, data, and technologies, independently and in alignment with their own laws, values, and strategic interests. It's not just about having access to digital tools, it's about having the authority to shape how those tools are built, deployed, and regulated. Now, how does this differ from digital autonomy? Digital autonomy is more about operational independence, being able to use digital systems without relying on external actors. But autonomy doesn't guarantee sovereignty. You might be able to operate a system, yet still depend on foreign platforms, proprietary standards, or opaque algorithms that limit your control. In short, autonomy is about usage, sovereignty is about governance. Understanding this distinction is key to navigate today's digital landscape, especially when evaluating open source, cloud infrastructure, and cross-border data flows. Companies often want to create the illusion of sovereignty. Fleur van Leusden captures it brilliantly with her metaphor, the vegan chicken breast of the digital world. Imagine buying a product labeled vegan, only to discover it's actually chicken with a sticker slapped on it. That's what some cloud providers offer when they market sovereign solutions. Take Microsoft Sovereign Cloud, for example. It promises data residency, compliance, and control. But who holds the real power? The parent company remains American, subject to US law. Even with features like customer lockbox or the EU data boundary, the ultimate authority to access or restrict data doesn't lie with the European customer. It lies elsewhere. Bert Hubert's work underscores this point. Sovereignty isn't about where the servers are. It's about who can pull the plug. A server in Frankfurt doesn't make the system sovereign if Washington can still issue a subpoena. So let's be clear. Digital sovereignty isn't a label. It's a power structure. And unless we rethink how we build, govern, and procure digital infrastructure, we risk mistaking autonomy for sovereignty and falling for the vegan chicken breast. Let's dig into the legal mismatch at the heart of digital sovereignty. Many cloud providers tout European server locations as proof of compliance and control. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Location doesn't equal protection. I'll illustrate this through US legislation. Under US law, companies like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon remain subject to American jurisdiction, regardless of where their servers are physically located. The Cloud Act allows US authorities to compel access to data held by American companies, even if that data resides in Europe. FISA, especially Section 702, permits surveillance of foreign nationals without a warrant. And Executive Order 12,333 enables bulk data collection outside US borders, often without juridical oversight. This creates a legal asymmetry. European citizens and institutions may assume their data is protected by European law, but in reality, it's vulnerable to foreign access under US rules. So while marketing materials highlight features like customer lockbox or EU data boundary, these are often PR solutions to a sovereignty problem. They may delay access or add procedural steps, but they don't override US law. In short, sovereignty isn't about where your data sleeps, it's about who has the legal keys to wake it up. And this screenshot tells a cautionary tale. Ziver, once a Dutch secure communications provider, was acquired by a US company. Overnight, its legal status changed. Despite operating in Europe, it became subject to US jurisdiction, bringing the Cloud Act, visa and executive order into play. Let's talk about why European cloud providers aren't truly competing with big tech. Bert Hubert puts it bluntly. Hosters sell wood, but users want furniture. European providers often offer raw infrastructure, servers, storage, bandwidth. It's solid, reliable, and technically excellent, but it's not what most modern developers or organizations are looking for. Today's cloud-native users want high-level services, identity management, scalable databases, secure login flows, analytics pipelines. They want to build fast, iterate quickly, and avoid reinventing the wheel. American hyperscalers, such as AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, they don't just sell wood. They sell beautifully crafted furniture. Services like Cognito, Azure AD B2C, and Google Identity Platform solve complex problems out of the box. They're polished, integrated, and backed by massive engineering teams. European providers, by contrast, often advertise cloud while still offering virtual machines. That's like showing a photo of a sleek dining table, then handing over a pile of planks. And here's the kicker. Even if European providers wanted to build furniture, it's not a weekend project. It requires deep software stacks, 24/7 reliability, and years of trust building. Without that, users won't switch, because one broken promise is all it takes to lose confidence. So the challenge isn't just technical, it's strategic. If Europe wants digital sovereignty, it must invest not just in infrastructure but in services, in furniture. Otherwise, we'll keep selling wood while the world shops IKEA. Open source software offers a radically different foundation for digital sovereignty. At its core, it means the source code is freely available for anyone. That openness unlocks three essential freedoms. You can view the code, gaining full transparency into how the software works. You can modify it, tailoring it to your needs, improving it, or adapting it to local laws and values. And you can distribute it, whether commercially or non-commercially, ensuring broad access and collaboration. These freedoms aren't just technical, they're political. They shift power from vendors to users, from secrecy to scrutiny. Open source is built on four key principles: the freedom to use the software for any purpose, the freedom to study and change how it works, the freedom to share copies with others, and the freedom to contribute improvements back to the community. Together, these principles create a shared infrastructure, one that's transparent, adaptable, and resilient. It's not just about cost savings, it's about control, trust, and collective ownership. In a world where sovereignty is often promised but rarely delivered, open source offers a real alternative. Not a sticker on a box, but a blueprint we can all build from. Let's talk about commercial open source, where community-driven development meets sustainable business models. Open source software doesn't mean no business. In fact, many successful companies build their entire value proposition around open code. They offer support, hosting, integrations, and enterprise-grade features while still contributing to the commons. This model often uses dual licensing or business-friendly licenses. That means the same codebase can be freely used by the community, while commercial customers pay for added value, like scalability, compliance, or guaranteed support. But there are still persistent misconceptions, like open source means free. Not always. Free to use doesn't mean free to operate, maintain, or scale. You can't make money from open code. That's proven wrong by companies like Red Hat, Elastic, and Nextcloud. It's only for techies. That's not true. The business value is universal: transparency, flexibility, and vendor independence. Commercial open source is not a contradiction. It's a strategy, one that aligns economic sustainability with digital sovereignty, and gives institutions the tools to build, own and evolve their digital infrastructure on their own terms. Let's compare the two dominant software models, open source and proprietary. Open source thrives on community support. It has no license cost, making it accessible and scalable. It's built for interoperability, designed to work across systems, not lock you into one. And it embraces open standards, which means anyone can build on top of it, audit it, and improve it. Proprietary software, on the other hand, is typically supported by a single vendor. It comes with license fees and often leads to vendor lock-in, where switching becomes costly or technically difficult. Formats are usually protected, limiting integration. And because the code is closed, it can't be peer-reviewed. That slows down innovation and makes it harder to spot vulnerabilities. Open source can be peer-reviewed by experts, communities, even competitors. That scrutiny leads to faster implementation of new features, better security, and more trust. So while proprietary software may offer convenience, open source offers control, transparency, and agility. And in the context of digital sovereignty, those aren't just technical advantages, they are strategic imperatives. Let's bring it all together, why open source isn't just a technical choice but a strategic advantage. First, it accelerates innovation. Community contributions mean new features, bug fixes, and improvements arrive faster, driven by real-world needs, not quarterly roadmaps. It lowers R&D costs. Instead of reinventing the wheel, institutions can build on existing code, redirecting resources toward customization and impact. It avoids vendor lock-in. You're not tied to a single provider or pricing model, you own your infrastructure and you choose how to evolve it. It taps into a global talent pool. Developers, researchers, and institutions worldwide contribute expertise, creating a shared ecosystem of excellence. It offers unmatched customizability and flexibility. You can adapt the software to your specific needs, integrate it with your systems, and evolve it over time. And it builds trust and transparency. Because the code is open, it can be inspected, audited, and improved by anyone. Let's break that down further. Transparency. You see exactly how the software works. No black boxes, no hidden logic. Security. Community scrutiny makes vulnerabilities visible and fixable. You're not waiting for a vendor patch. Community innovation. Open source fosters collaboration. Improvements are shared, not siloed. Customization. You can tailor the software to fit your mission, your users, and your legal context. In short, open source empowers institutions to move faster, spend smarter, and build systems they can trust. It's not just a technical model. It's a sovereignty enabler. Let's look at a concrete example. QGIS. QGIS is a powerful, professional-grade geographic information system built entirely from open-source components, libraries, packages, and other GIS tools. It's a testament to what community-driven development can achieve when aligned with public value. It's released under the GNU General Public License version 2 or any later version. But what does that mean in practice? Well, you can use, modify, and distribute QGIS freely. No hidden costs, no vendor lock-in. If you distribute a modified version, it must also be licensed under GPL, ensuring the same freedoms to others. You always have access to the source code. That means full transparency, auditability, and control. And yes, it's fully legal to use QGIS for commercial purposes. No fees, no special permissions, no legal gray zones. QGIS proves that open source isn't just viable, it's strategic. It empowers governments, researchers, and businesses to build sovereign geospatial infrastructure, collaborate across borders, and innovate without compromise. This is what digital sovereignty looks like in action. Let's debunk further the myth that open source means no business. QGIS is surrounded by a vibrant ecosystem of companies that generate revenue while contributing to the project. I've just put some logos on the slides. There are many more companies around it, and also the companies mentioned in the table are just examples and is certainly not complete. So this is how they make money, through consulting and custom development, building plugins, automating workflows, and adapting QGIS to specific needs. through training and certification, helping professionals build skills and confidence, run workshops, online courses and certification programs. Through support and maintenance contracts, provide service level agreements back support for institutions using QGIS in production, ensuring reliability and peace of mind. Hosting and cloud services, bringing open source to the cloud-native world. Feature sponsorships. Clients fund the development of new features that benefit both their organization and the wider community, and companies are hired to implement that. This model proves that open source isn't just sustainable, it's scalable. It aligns public value with commercial viability, and it invites institutions to invest not just in software, but in ecosystems. QGIS isn't just a tool, it's a platform for collaboration, innovation and sovereignty, with business models that work. To build sustainable open source ecosystems, we need to understand the value chain. A value chain maps out all the activities involved in creating, delivering and supporting a product, from research and development to customer service. Each step adds value, but not all steps are equally monetizable. So let's break it down. At the core infrastructure level, open source licensing makes sense. It encourages adoption, builds trust, and invites community contributions. Think of QGIS itself, freely available, widely used, and constantly improved. For customization tools, a freemium or tiered licensing model works well. Basic features remain open, while advanced capabilities can be monetized. This balances accessibility with sustainability. Support and services, like training, hosting, and service level agreements, are ideal for paid add-ons or enterprise licensing. Here, organizations pay for reliability, expertise, and peace of mind. And at the top of the chain, analytics and insights can be offered under premium licensing. These are high-value features that deliver strategic advantage, making them ideal for monetization. This layered approach allows open source projects to remain free and transparent at their core, while enabling commercial viability around the edges. It's not just about locking users in, it's about offering value where it matters most. This approach focuses on delivering customized implementations using trusted open source building blocks like the ones under OSGeo. Think of tools like QGIS, GeoServer, and PostGIS. Modular, interoperable, and proven in production. Solutions are tailored to client requirements. No one-size-fits-all, each deployment reflects the client's workflows, data, and goals. These solutions are built from modular components assembled like Lego bricks. That means flexibility, scalability, and long-term maintainability. Collaboration is key. Providers work closely with clients, often in high-touch engagements that blend technical expertise with strategic insights. Revenue comes from consulting, development, and support, not from licensing fees. This aligns incentives with client success, not vendor lock-in. Deep domain expertise is essential. Providers must understand both the technology and the sector, whether it's urban planning, water management, or public health. And importantly, this model encourages reuse and community contributions. Improvements made for one client can benefit many, strengthening the ecosystem as a whole. This path shows that open source isn't just about code. It's about delivering value, building trust, and solving real-world problems with transparency and agility. Now let's look at the second path, the productized software as a service model. This approach delivers standardized software as a service built on open source foundations but packaged for scale. The feature set is fixed with minimal customization. Clients onboard quickly, but they don't shape the roadmap. The software is hosted and maintained by the vendor, removing the burden of infrastructure and updates. Revenue comes from subscriptions. It's predictable, scalable, and aligns with modern procurement models. Onboarding is fast. No lengthy implementation cycles, just sign up and start using. In delivery, it may resemble proprietary software. The interface is polished, the backend is abstracted, and users rarely interact with the source code. but under the hood is often built on open source components. That means transparency, community-driven innovation, and the potential for interoperability. This model is ideal for reaching broad audiences, especially those who value convenience over customization. It's open source in spirit, software as a service in execution. Together with the solution-based model, it shows that open source isn't just flexible, it's commercially viable across multiple delivery modes. Now let's compare the two commercial open source models side by side. First, customization. The solution-based model offers high customization. Each implementation is tailored to the client's needs. The productized software as a service model, by contrast, is standardized. It's designed for scale, not for deep tailoring. Next, the revenue model. Solution-based businesses earn through consulting and project work. Productized software as a service relies on subscriptions, recurring, predictable, and scalable. Scalability is where the models diverge sharply. Solution-based delivery is limited by team capacity. Each project requires hands-on effort. Software as a service, on the other hand, scales effortlessly. One platform can serve thousands of users. The client relationship also differs. Solution-based providers build deep, collaborative partnerships. Software as a service tends to be more transactional or self-service, efficient but less personal. And finally, open source contribution. Solution-based firms often contribute upstream, fixes, features, documentation. Software as a service providers may contribute less visibly, focusing on internal improvements or proprietary layers. Both models have their place. The solution-based path is ideal for complex, domain-specific needs. The software as a service model excels in broad, repeatable use cases. The key is alignment with your users, your mission, and your capacity to deliver. Even with the best intentions, public procurement can undermine digital sovereignty. Let's look at common pitfalls. First, popularity bias. Some tenders require that the solution be used by a certain number of municipalities or public bodies. The idea is to reduce risk, but the effect is exclusion. Newer or tailored open source solutions, no matter how promising, are disqualified simply because they haven't scaled yet. Innovation is penalized. Incumbents are rewarded. Second, vendor lock-in by design. Tenders often require integration with existing proprietary stacks, like Esri or Microsoft. This forces bidders to conform to closed ecosystems, even when open alternatives exist. It reinforces dependency and undermines sovereignty. Instead of opening doors, it builds walls. Third, overspecification. Some tenders list technical requirements that match a specific vendor's product, down to the interface, terminology, or architecture. These aren't neutral specifications. They're tailored to a solution, not a problem. And that blocks creative, modular open source alternatives from even entering the race. These patterns aren't just inconvenient, they're systemic. If we want digital sovereignty, we need procurement that rewards openness, flexibility, and innovation, not just familiarity. Let's continue unpacking the procurement challenges that limit digital sovereignty. No room for pilots or proof of concept. Many tenders require solutions to be fully deployed and operational from day one. That blocks experimentation, phased rollouts, and agile approaches, missing the chance to test open source in real-world settings before scaling. Next, opaque evolution criteria. Scoring on vague terms like user-friendliness or market maturity often favors familiar vendors. These subjective metrics undermine transparency and fairness, making it harder for open source bids to compete. We also see overspecification again. Technical specs are written to match a specific vendor's product, not the problem being solved. This locks out creative modular alternatives that could offer better long-term value. Then there's the exclusion of non-certified vendors. Requirements like ISO certified or Microsoft Gold partner sound neutral, but they block participation from small open source firms and agile collectives, many of whom are deeply capable but not formally certified. Short timelines are another barrier. Requiring full proposals or demos within 2 weeks favors large vendors with pre-written responses, Open source teams, who often work collaboratively and iteratively, are squeezed out by time pressure. Then there's no enforcement of open standards, which means that tenders don't require interoperability or open formats, encouraging proprietary lock-in and data silos. And finally, we often find no incentives for transparency, meaning that open source, auditability and public trust aren't rewarded, despite being core to sovereign tech. These aren't just technical oversights, they're systemic design flaws. If we want open, sovereign digital infrastructure, we need procurement that reflects those values, starting with how we write, evaluate and time our tenders. So when we talk about digital transformation, especially with open source, we often focus on the visible tip of the iceberg, the technology. That's the 20% above the waterline. It includes frameworks, tools and technical analysis. It's tangible, measurable and easy to specify in a tender. But below the surface lies the other 80%, the relational, human and cultural factors that determine whether change actually sticks. It's about behavior, resistance and dedication. It's about communication, support and shared responsibility. It's about education, ownership and aligning interests. These intangible elements are harder to quantify, but they are essential. You can deploy the perfect software stack, but without buy-in, training and trust, it won't deliver impact. Procurement often focuses on the visible tip, technical specs, certifications, deployment timelines. But real sovereignty requires diving deeper. It means investing in people, processes and culture, not just systems. Open source thrives when the whole iceberg is addressed, because it's not just about what we build, it's about how we build it together. We've seen the challenges, we've explored them, now it's time to act. Sovereignty isn't a checkbox, it's a commitment, and open source isn't just viable, it's vital, if we choose to make it so. For open source companies, this means be excellent, not just open. Solve real problems better than proprietary alternatives. Invest in usability and support. Match the polish and onboarding of closed source giants. Collaborate. Don't compete blindly. Build shared stacks, training and outreach, especially for public sector needs. For government and public institutions, ask better questions in tenders. Prioritize adaptability, transparency and long-term control. Pilot before you commit. Create space for experimentation with open source tools. Challenge vendor lock-in. Push for open standards and exit strategies in contracts. Rethink procurement logic. Used by 100,000 or more municipalities doesn't mean the best fit. Support digital autonomy. Fund open source teams, not just the infrastructure. Balance ecosystems, recognize the strengths of closed source but invest in open alternatives that serve sovereignty. This isn't just about software, it's about power, trust, and the future we choose to build. Let's make open source not just an option, but the default for sovereign digital infrastructure. I'm curious about your comments on this presentation. Feel free to post them in the comments under this video or in the discussion on LinkedIn.